Why, hello there. My name is Mountain, and today I'd like to talk to you about this. And what is this, you might ask? Well, this is the Bellroy Venture Sling, 9 liters. Now, this is actually a crossbody sling, or a crossbody bag type sling, released a couple of months ago by Bellroy, the Melbourne-based manufacturer of a wide range of carry and EDC goods that make some of my favorite gear in the carry game these days. Now, as you might imagine, at 9 liters, the Venture Sling is quite a large sling. It actually sits at the top of Bellroy's rather extensive line of slings, and it's actually one of the largest slings on the market today. Now, as a point of comparison, consider the Traque Barn messenger bag rated at 10 liters, which is only 1 liter larger than this. I previously reviewed that on this channel, and that's actually like a messenger bag. Now, in fact, the large capacity of the Venture Sling is one of its main claims to fame. So this is a quick preview of the gigantic capacity of this bag. Now, it's not only a large capacity. Let me put this in practical terms for you. Like, this bag is big enough to carry my Leica SL2S with its 24-70 f2.8, which is one of the largest and heaviest non-gripped mirrorless cameras, if not the largest, out there in the market these days. And it could comfortably carry this inside of this bag. Now, it's not only that, however, it also carries it whilst having plenty of organization for the different kind of EDC goods that you might want to have in your everyday carry collection, and that's both in that front pocket and also here on the inside, arranged all along the sides of this bag. And I'll get into all of the different, kind of pocketing options that this bag offers in a little bit. And finally, I think that another advantage or claim to fame for this bag is that not only is it easy to dump things in and out and be able to find them because of all this organization, it also is able to flatteringly shift between like the fuller states, like when you've got something gigantic packed in there, or in a more compressed state, thanks to sort of the natural kind of compression straps and how they work on this bag. And it's very easy to throw this bag on and off of your body, which obviously you can do with a lot of slings, but this one just does it very well, even while fully loaded out. Now, that having been said, this bag is not perfect. One of its primary downsides is a notable inability to handle any kind of tablet or laptop type device larger than, say, like an iPad mini. And that's a little bit surprising considering this is a 9 liter rather gigantic sling. Beyond that, while much of the internal pocketing is actually quite good, and I've talked a little bit about that, I'll talk a bit more about it. At the back of the bag, there's these 4 kind of cotton or fabric pockets that are not flexible and very, very hard to use, to the point that I struggled to find much practical use for them at all and often left them empty. Finally, this bag pioneers a couple of new construction and aesthetic choices for Bellroy, such as this slightly interesting two-way in the way that like it only opens from one side or the other, leaving one side always kind of pinched together, zipper, these surprisingly tactical-esque paracord zipper pulls, which is not something we've seen for Bellroy in the past, and just kind of like this interesting way of leaving the sides kind of like covered with this, not fully secured, so they can kind of gap out depending on how quickly you close the bag, which is again a little bit of an interesting aesthetic choice for Bellroy. Now, the Venture Sling comes in 4 different colors and materialways. This is obviously the black colorway, and then there's also a blue, green, and a terracotta available as of the time of this recording here. So next, let's talk about who this bag is for and who it's not for. So I think that this is a great bag for photographers looking for an alternative to the Peak Design or other other dedicated camera carry slings. As I previously mentioned, this will hold the gigantic Leica SL2S and a 24-70 f2.8 lens on there with enough space to fit another small prime on there. And if you have a more reasonably sized bag, you're going to be able to fit a camera. You'll be able to fit easily, one camera body and 1 lens and 1 or 2 more extra lenses on here, depending on how big they are. And then it has this bit of padding, which I'll talk about at the bottom, on the back, and on the bottom of the bag, which I'll talk about in a moment, on the back and the bottom of the bag, that kind of helps protect it if you set it down, and it provides just enough protection that it is usable as a camera bag, plus EDC sling when you're kind of, if you're careful with it. And the other thing that I like is, unlike those dedicated camera carry slings, this one actually will cinch up and get a lot smaller when you take the camera body out of it, rather than the others, which tend to retain their rather bulky giant shape, even when you don't have your camera inside of it. I think this is also a good bag for parents looking for like a small just-in-case baby bag. As I previously mentioned, this thing has a very large capacity, it has lots of pocketing to kind of keep you organized. It'll easily fit like a baby bottle and some diapers with room to spare inside of here, and it kind of kind of compresses when you're kind of out and about, which helps kind of reduce the bulk. I think this is also a good bag for people who love slings but have some chunky carry needs. For example, if you like the slings but you have like really gigantic headphones like these AirPod Maxes or whatever, this is going to be a sling they'll be able to actually fit those in there. And then finally, for people who are maybe one bag travelers, pushing down 1.5 bag travelers, especially if you have something like a roll top bag or other kind of minimalist bag, which generally have a bit of a weakness in being able to actually get in and out of it with things for your passport or stuff you might need en route. This is going to be a nice thing because it has, as a kind of companion, because it has like this huge dumpability. You can easily take this. This counts, not even as a personal item, possibly depending on your airline. You just throw it on the seat in front of you, or in the table on the side next to you or whatever, and it has everything you need en route, including the capacity to take things like a jacket or a water bottle if you might need that. Now, in terms of who this is not for, I think number one in terms of who it's not for is going to be people who want to carry devices. So anything larger than an iPad mini, which is what I have in here right now, is going to be a challenge for this bag, which is kind of disappointing. At 9 liters, you would think it could carry at least an 11-inch iPad Pro, but it's a very short and squat 9 liters. So this is not a great choice for that, unfortunately. So no computers, no larger tablets, nothing like that. Minimalists or fashionistas, obviously fashion is in the eye of the beholder, but there are some odd and, in my opinion, slightly unresolved design combinations here. You've got like this braided paracord. You've got this kind of, I guess in my opinion, like weird overhanging, sometimes gapping side closures. You've got the general Bellroy aesthetic, but it's all sort of like kind of jumbled up. And so I think that there's probably not a lot of people who would consider this the most fashionable sling out there. And I think also minimalists might philosophically be opposed to the idea of a 9-liter sling, because at that point you're really having like a bag. And finally, I think most average sling people, this might not be the best choice for you. It's just probably going to be a little too big unless you need to actually use this capacity. It is a sizable bag that does a fairly good job of hiding its bulk, but again, 9 liters is 9 liters when most slings are like around 2.5 liters. So next, let's talk about the exterior design of this bag. So one of the things that you notice right away is that this is undoubtedly a large bag, but it does a fairly good job of hiding that bulk, especially when you're wearing the bag. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you here, but what happens is it has this compression system on the straps, which I'll talk about in the strap section, that helps kind of pull the bag, flat in profile. It kind of helps curve around your back. There's a bit of padding on the back of the bag. It extends from the back all the way to the bottom. And I actually think that this really helps the bag retain its structure without being fully structured. It greatly improves the comfort against your back and helps it just kind of like handle the larger weights that you might expect in a bag that's 9 liters, that's curving down at the bottom like this here. And that helps prevent sag as well. The one thing I noticed with this bag that I was pleasantly surprised with is it doesn't really give you a lot of bowing or sag at the bottom, which you would expect when you have a bunch of weight in a bag that's this broad. And again, I think that's partially due to this padding and sort of the construction of this bag here. It has this dimensionality that can shift. And what that means is the bag doesn't always stand up on its own, but I found that usually, you can kind of squat it down and it'll generally kind of stay there. So that means you can, theoretically kind of like just put it, not theoretically, I mean, I do it. Like you can, take the bag, plop it open like this. So it does kind of tip forward a little bit, but then you can just throw stuff or get stuff, works in and out of this bag and kind of access most of the pockets, although this is asymmetrical zipper does actually create a little bit of friction there. Material-wise, you get the standard Bellroy fare, right? So variety of materials that change according to the colorway, all recycled, I believe, at this point. This is the nice nylon. It has a slightly artificial plasticky feeling, but not unpleasant. And I want to really stress that. It's not like organic feeling to the hand, but it doesn't feel tacky or rubbery or tarpaulin or anything like that. It's interesting. It feels good, and like a fabric. It's just sort of an interesting texture, and I suppose that's because it's made from recycled products. I like that. Hooray for sustainability. It also has things like, you're going to have like these waterproof zippers, AquaGuard zippers here on the front, and on this part here, although that is, again, sometimes of mixed utility because the the sides can gap sometimes, letting water in here. And then you also get some interesting stuff like, you know, like these Duraflex hardware buckles that I've actually never seen on any bag before the Bellroys. Before Bellroy used it on this sling here. And then nice straps, aluminum hardware, etc. So generally just good standard Bellroy materials. Now that having been said, there are some odd aesthetic choices you noticed about this bag. I already alluded to these sort of surprisingly tactical-esque paracord, paracord heat shrunk zipper pulls, braided zipper pulls. What's interesting is when I first got this bag, I thought, wow, this is an odd new direction for Bellroy. And then also another odd new direction is like this kind of flap opening, and I'll show you what I mean. Like you close the zipper, but it just kind of hangs over the side, and then it can gap open if you have too much stuff inside of there, and the same thing on this side. I remember when I first got this bag, I was like, wow, that's a bit of an odd choice for Bellroy. And then I later on got the Bellroy light collection here. I'll show you both the duffel, and this is the light sling, and they use the same construction. So heat shrunk paracord tubing, and then like the sort of side gapping, you know, closure on the sling top. So maybe that's just the way that Bellroy is going to approach this type of design solution, or this type of slings or messenger bags moving forward. So I did actually talk a little bit about the slings in a moment, so let's get into them a little bit further. So one thing that I liked about this bag is that it actually wears very, very easily. So before I talk about the wear, like the straps are this, you know, very low profile, high quality, kind of woven flat straps. They're not too big, not too small, just right. Aluminum sliders, and one thing you're going to notice right away is the strap is symmetrical. Let's see if I can show you here. Meaning there's, you know, many straps are asymmetrical, meaning there's usually like one side that you're meant to adjust and the other side you're not. This one has just two sliders here, and then there's these two buckles, which I'll talk about here, and there's no like asymmetry. So you can wear this bag on either side and adjust it on either way as you'd like. The bags connect with this Duraflex buckle here, which I've kind of mentioned is, I've never seen this design before. It's fine. This part's metal, this part's plastic. It's low profile, which I like, and it kind of allows it to slide on this other strap on the side here for the compression effect. I don't actually find myself unbuckling or buckling them, but I think it's good that they exist. I just didn't quite understand why they used them here. Nothing bad, it's just I've never seen them before, and it feels like you could get away without them. Now, I did talk about the strap kind of sliding and compressing here. Now, we've seen this on a lot of other slings and a lot of the other Bellroy slings. What happens is when the bag is fully loaded out, you can see, like if it were fully loaded out, you know, this strap would just pull back here, and it would just pull on the back here, and then it kind of gently compresses the bag down in the load and keeps it tighter to your body. And then obviously when the bag is less packed out, it just kind of compresses it some more. And I like how that works on this sling. I think that compression is one of the beneficial parts of parts of the strap's construction. It really helps the bag handle the larger loads whilst comfortably wearing on your body, thanks to that padded back that I mentioned. Now, I did mention that this bag wears easily, and what I mean by that is, like, even though there's no, like, you know, polar or fancy whatever, like you just have these simple slider buckles, because of some of the inherent play, thanks to how this strap is when it's not, the connection point when it's not compressed, it's really easy to just throw it over your body, and then it, if you wanted to shore it up, you can just slide this buckle up. And then if you wanted to, like, you know, wear it over the back, and when you want to take it off, it's really easy to just run your hand down here. Sorry, I got the strap up here, and just, you know, run this slider down or up. Now, shortening it up, you do need to usually tuck your finger into this strap here, so you have something to pull against. But I find it really quite easy to kind of manipulate the bag. And I thought that the other thing I liked is, like, these sliders tend to keep their place. So, you know, overall, like, I liked, like, how comfortable and easy it was to just, once you've got it on there, get it up and then just be able to pull it up like this. And then it stays where you need it. It's very easy to wear over one shoulder as well, which is something that I would sometimes do. When I just want to carry the bag like a short distance, I would just throw it over one shoulder. And I found that it was just kind of easy to wear this bag. And I like that there wasn't any big buckle like hitting me in the chest or whatever. So next, let's talk about the front compartment of this bag. So this front compartment, has a YKK AquaGuard zipper on it, as I mentioned, and then what you do is you just pull it open. It's a one-way zipper, and it immediately reveals a relatively large cavernous opening here that runs the full width of the bag. And there's this bit of like stiffener in here, which I find is really useful for being able to kind of pull against when you're trying to unzip the bag, or when you kind of need to just kind of bow the front open so you can throw things in here. So I really like this little bit of stiffener here. So on the inside, as I mentioned, there's this big cavernous opening, and then there's two mesh pockets. One of the mesh pockets is larger than the other one. That's this one here. And in there I just have my phone. Here's an iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it's quite large. You could actually fit a slightly larger phone in there if you want. And then on the other side opening here, you have a much smaller one inside, of which I have some AirPod Pros and some alcohol to sanitize my hand sanitizer. And then in this main compartment, I have chapstick, and then I also have my keys, which are attached to this key leash, which I'll talk about here in a moment. Now, with everything out of the way, you can get a sense of like how big this pocket is. It actually can intrude on the main compartment. This is the inside main compartment. It can push in on there, and this volume can flex back and forth between how much space you want to allocate to the main compartment and to the front compartment. I say allocate, it sort of happens naturally. And I really like that even when you have things in both of these little pockets, you can still throw a bunch of other stuff in this main volume and have it stay organized, because you've got the two main mesh dividers keeping your stuff there, and you've got your key leash so you can kind of fish the keys out. Now, speaking of the key leash, so this is the key leash, and it's another kind of unusual sort of paracord wrapped with a hitch, bowline hitch or whatever that's called, and just a cheap plastic clip that's very small. And I don't know, I feel like Bellroy almost always cheaps out weirdly on their key leashes or their keychains. Like, there are very few bags of theirs that have anything that doesn't feel demonstrably and markedly cheap when it comes to the key leashes. This is an example of one that's not bad. It just feels so cheap compared to some of the care and execution they put in things like the AquaGuard zips, or these interesting, Duraflex buckles, and then you've got this little weird heat shrunk paracord thing. Now, beyond that, one other thing that I did notice, like, this is a relatively short key leash, and I think the idea is, one, you don't want a bunch of extra cordage kind of tangling up your front pocket. You still want to be able to fish your keys. I think the way you're supposed to use it, right, is you clip your keys onto it, and then if you get home or whatever, you just find the cable, find the cord like this, pull it out, great, and then you're supposed to be able to just open your door like this while just kind of like pulling the bag forward, and then that's why it's short enough, it should be able to reach. This is actually true if your door is, if your door or whatever has like a reasonably placed, reasonable height lock. What I found though is if you had something heavy inside of the bag, like a camera or, water bottle or whatever, it actually gets really hard to pull the weight of this bag up off of this little cord enough to reach here. And if your locks are higher or lower, which sometimes they are, it can actually be really, really annoying. So I kind of sometimes wish that this were a little bit stretchier, and I also wish it just weren't so cheap. However, in all, I do think that the front pocket of this bag is really, really useful. The last thing, while I have it on here, not only because of the organization I mentioned, but because it's really easy to wear and access while you're wearing it, and it's really easy to load things into there, like this. And it does keep things organized, even whilst maintaining great dumpability. The last little thing I'll mention about here, though, is because this is a one-way zipper and it does get a little bit tight in this corner, accessing this stretch pouch here, this little one, which is also smaller, can sometimes be a little fiddly. So that's why I keep things that I use less often, like my my AirPod Pros in here, or my hand sanitizer. It's just a little bit fiddlier, but then the main phone pocket one is really easy to get in and out of. So next, let's talk about the main compartment of this bag. Now, before we talk about the main compartment of the bag, we need to talk about how we get into the main compartment of the bag. I previously mentioned this two-way asymmetrical zip, if that's the right way of talking about it. And what I mean is, like, you can open the bag this way, and then this side's wide open and this corner's closed. Or you can open the bag this way, and then this side's open and this corner's closed. But either way, there's going to be one side that's actually a little bit hard to get into because you can't open this side of the bag. You can't open the bag and have the center wide open and have both sides closed. You can, I suppose, for the sake of completeness, do this, but that's weird and don't do that. So at first I thought I wasn't going to really like that, and I thought it's weird. Why didn't they just have a standard center opening zipper compartment? But then I realized that, you know, when you open a standard zipper type compartment, you're going to have pinches on both sides anyway. So this way, theoretically, there's greater access to one side and just the equal amount of like hard to access, pinch access on the other compared to a standard center opening. What I thought was, maybe in the beginning I wasn't used to that, so I had to do this sort of thinking about which side am I trying to access more, and I didn't quite know where I had all my stuff in there. And that cognitive load made it a little bit frustrating. But after a couple of days, after I kind of remembered where I had everything and how I was using this bag, it became second nature to know which side of the bag I wanted to zip or unzip, depending on what I wanted to access at the time. Now, this zipper, which is, you know, a water resistant zipper there, is a little bit frictionful. It is possible, especially if you have heavy stuff in here, to open it with one hand. But, you know, the heavier stuff, the easier it is to do. But generally, I would find myself kind of like looping, you know, a finger through here or just like through here and just pulling against there while I'm wearing the bag. I did find that the zippers felt fairly robust, and then while these zipper pulls are not my favorite, they're a little too tactical for my taste on this bag, they were easy to kind of manipulate and pull. And I like that the bag was kind of quiet, or these zipper pulls are quiet on the bag. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into the main compartment of the bag. And the first thing you notice is it is huge. So we take this out here, and right away you see the gigantic volume in this bag. Now, I already previously told you could fit something like this, you know, like a SL2 in here, and you easily can, like this, and I'll show you how that closes up in a moment here. But let's talk a little bit about what I have in this bag first while I'm demonstrating the various kind of internal organizations. So in this main compartment, which can be big or can collapse very small, you have, first the main compartment, and it's slightly padded at the bottom and the back, as I mentioned. And then also you have in the back, the first thing you notice is this long, flat zipper pocket here. And in this zipper pocket, I have a Bellroy notebook. I have my Bellroy Apex wallet, and then I have a little coin pouch in there. And then this is quite a long, flat zipper. It runs almost the entire length of the bag. And I like that for kind of keeping your flatter things easy, kind of secure and easy to kind of access because they're right against your back. So you can just unzip this bag, zip this, you know, get in and out, but you want a little bit more security. You don't want them just kind of floating out there. Now, the next thing you're going to notice on this back panel are these four, pockets along the back. These don't have any stretch to them at all. They're just made of cloth. And it's actually annoyingly hard to use these. So right now I just have a couple of cough drops stuck into this kind of long, narrow one. I suppose if you carried a knife or something, a knife might fit in here. Where I live, you're not allowed to carry knives outside, so we don't do that. Then you have this one that looks like it's long and flat, and you feel like, oh, well, maybe that is a good place for a field notes, but it doesn't actually fit. And it's too small for most wallets. The Bellroy Apex wallet will fit in there, but it's kind of an annoying fit and prefer to keep them more secure. If you have any kind of normal size wallet, it's not going to fit in here. So I don't know what this is for, really. I just keep an extra mask in there. And then off the side, you have two pockets here that are supposed to be pen pockets. The thing is, it's awkward because any normal size pen juts up into the zipper line, so I have no idea what kind of pens they were designing this for. You can kind of make it work with slightly shorter pens, but it's just odd. I don't know what these pockets really are useful for. Shorter pens, stuff like that. And the fact that there's no stretch greatly limits their practicality. So I didn't really like that about these pockets. And like I said, I don't usually use them that much, but at least they're not that obtrusive when you're not using them. And then the next thing you notice is off to the side, we have two stretchy side wall pockets, which I love. So in this one, I have an extra pair of headphones. These are the Mastering Dynamics MW08s. So I keep like the AirPod Pros up here for like, the practicality and ease of connection, but when I care about the sound quality, I'll have like a nicer pair of headphones. And then just like a little cleaning cloth. And I like that these these side pockets gape open, they're stretchy. They're a little bit loose mesh, so things can kind of sometimes come out if you're really shaking it around, but otherwise it kind of keeps things nice and out of the way. And then if we were to move the zipper line to the other side, we'll see on this side pocket I have here another mask for some reason, and then like a big battery bank and a cable to charge with. And then it's the same thing here, same stretchy material, high capacity, can get quite large if you want. Now, there is one thing that I want to mention, however, which is, I've alluded to this in the past. So because of these side walls, because of these side pockets here, depending on what you put in them, it is possible when you close the bag, you can see this is the pocket, and you can see it's pushing out on the side here. And then when I zip it shut, you can see here, I've got it gaping open here. This happens depending on how much stuff or how bulky the stuff is you've got in the side pockets and how filled up the main compartment is. I would say more often than not, this would happen on one side or the other. Now, obviously you can carefully tuck this under here, kind of, and then like pull this over here, and then it's more secure and it's going to be water resistant and all that. But it is sort of an annoying, I guess, side effect of the way that this bag is constructed with this top zipper line. I don't hate it. I don't love it. And I guess like I would say that for some people, they're going to hate this a lot more than they can tolerate it. And other people will be like, yeah, it's okay, it's cool. Or maybe they just don't use these side pockets. I guess it's just an inevitable factor or a side effect of how this bag is constructed, and just the choice to leave this kind of zipper line open and just kind of coming over the top. You're always going to run the risk of, you can see, gaping open like that. Anyway, so moving on back to the main compartment. So if we were to take this thing and flip it open, on the front here we have this long, stretchy mesh pocket, which at first I was like, oh, I don't kind of like how loose this mesh is. Like these side pocket meshes are fine to be loose. This one I was kind of, but now I really like it because this is, again, great dumpability, tons of capacity. And in here I have a bunch of like just random things that I might, EDC goods I might need, but I don't want like bouncing around on the inside of the bag, and I didn't want to put in a separate pouch. And things like an SD reader, and a phone stand, 20-watt charger, and cable, flashlight here, and then like a SIM card ejector tool, James Brand Halifax pocket widget, and a little pocket pen. And I just throw those all into this big compartment up here, and then it's just nice and out of the way. And this like stretchy material just means it's easy to fit even bulkier things. You could easily put like a power bank in there or something like that, and it would stretch. And it keeps it up and above the main capacity of this bag. And with all of this out of the way, you can see it is a sizable capacity in this bag here. Now, the last thing that I forgot to mention, because I didn't show it first, is devices, which I've kind of told you is not the strength of this bag. So with this bag kind of empty, you can see here I have an iPad mini. This is the newest generation iPad mini, and a little Logitech keyboard. And that will fit actually nicely in here with lots of room to spare. Like you can still use the main capacity volume of this bag with all that other stuff in there. That's how I usually carry it. It gets more annoying or harder when you take something like an iPad Pro 11. You can sort of shoehorn it in here. You can see already it's not a very comfortable fit, and what happens is the bag won't stand up, and then you basically can't access this volume here because it's just pushing up against the zipper line. So it's not really, it is possible in emergency, but it's not really usable for this. Anything like a larger notebook or any larger tablet like that's just not going to work with that. You can also take things like a water bottle, and those will fit very easily with tons of room to spare. And like I said, the pocketing does a nice job of kind of keeping all the other stuff off to the side of it, or up on top of it, or up on behind it. It's just generally like very, very useful in ways that it clusters organization around the main capacity without intruding on the main capacity. Really like that about this bag. And then finally, I've mentioned a few times here, giant camera that fits in here. I took a 2-week trip through California with just this as like my camera bag. And all my other EDC goods, and you can see it's super easy to carry. It's very comfortable. As I mentioned, there's no bowing, even though this is a super heavy camera, and it's really easy to kind of get in and out, you know, shoot. And when I've got this, you know, close, obviously there's nothing else in here, but like when I've got the camera out, you can see it compresses down nicely on the side or on the back, so it's not like this big bulky thing. And then when you're done, it's very easy to just throw the camera in there, zip it up like this. And you can obviously still use other organization in the front of the bag, in the sides of the bag, here and here, even in this front zipper area up here. And even larger things like these AirPod Maxes will fit in here. AirPod Maxes are annoying because like the way the carry case is, it makes them broader than they need to be or taller than they need to be. They will fit in here like this, but they do push up a little bit. Any kind of normal headphones, like my other big, other common big ones are like the Master Dynamics MW65s, you know, are more oriented like this. It's super easy to just chuck them in there, and then they don't you know, take up any, they don't push up weirdly against the top of this. And so to sum this up, like this is actually a really great larger sling for people who might need larger slings. Like it has this great, amazing, not just great, amazing central capacity, whilst maintaining lots of practicality and organization in ways that don't interfere with that. Great dumpability in all the compartments and even in some of the sub-compartments here. Very comfortable to wear, does a good job of kind of looking smaller or shifting the dimensions when it's not so loaded out. You know, this padding helps protect the contents and improves the wearing experience. Simple straps that are easy to get on and off and hold their place. Now, obviously there's some little, you know, things that aren't great here, like the side gap sometimes is a little bit annoying. The zipper pulls do seem a little bit out of place here. But overall, like I really liked this bag. And if you're looking for like a larger sling bag and you don't need to carry any devices other than maybe like an iPad mini or something like that, this is going to be a great choice for you. Speaking of great choices, if you're in the market for a bag like that, what are some other choices you might want to consider? Well, first and foremost, we've got all of Bellroy's other slings. The closest in size is going to be the Bellroy Sling. This is the regular original sling. This is 7 liters. The Venture Sling is 9 liters. You can tell it's slightly, well, I guess it's hard to see, but you can see that that this sling is slightly smaller than this sling. Honestly, like this sling is starting to show its age. It was the original Bellroy sling they made. You can see that the straps are probably not wide enough considering what you can throw inside of this bag. They have a standard central opening here, which you got like the pinch corners here. It doesn't have as much organization on the inside. It's just really got one zipper pocket here. It's a little bit harder to get in there. And then the front compartment has 0% organization, just a big dump pocket. It is, again, like a, you know, an interesting sling. This has like a traditional kind of, you know, center opening one here. It does have the same features of like the side compression, and overall it is also available in a variety of like different colorways and material ways. And so you can obviously see some of the design language here, but overall I think this is just a slightly older sling that's starting to show its age, but you know, also a good choice for people who might be looking for a larger sling. Now, if you need a larger sling, but not quite 9 liters large, and you want some of the more modern Bellroy takes, this is the Bellroy Sling Lite. This is a 7-liter sling also. I actually really like this thing. This just dropped a little while ago, and I've been actually using it almost as much as this sling now. You're going to notice right away you have some of the same like design language being echoed here, like the heat shrunk paracording, the same kind of like top opening or side, you know, opening with a little bit of risk of gap, but a lot less here. The asymmetrical, you know, top access. Not as much organization here, but you do have more than the regular sling. So you've got this back zip pocket, you've got this side gap pocket just on one side, and then you've got a front compartment with a couple of internal organizers, and then the same kind of key leash here. Now the claim to fame with this one, oh, also a little bit of padding on the back. Now the claim to fame with this one, it's super light, hence the name, and it actually does a surprising job of, like, you know, holding a bunch of stuff. You can actually fit an iPad mini in here with the keyboard as well, which again, you know, maybe says more about how they've chosen to like distribute the volume on a 9-liter sling, that you can get the same amount of stuff into the 7-liter sling. But it's also very comfortable, and it's just a lot lighter. So I actually quite like this sling a lot, and it would actually, I would recommend it more than this one if you're looking for an alternative to this one here. And then finally, if you like the Bellroy sling line, but you just want something a little bit smaller, this is the Sling Mini. I think this one is maybe 4 liters. Same, you can see actually here, it's kind of a hybrid of both. So you do have the same kind of opening as the original sling line. One pocket on the inside here, but then the front pocket has 2 organizer mesh pockets here. And it's a little bit of a smaller bag. Same side compression, a little bit of padding here, no padding on the bottom, and kind of an interesting choice. It actually used to be my favorite small sling until like the Air City Sling 2 came out just recently. Another sling to consider is the Trache Largo sling. This is a 5.5 liters. It's a little bit smaller than the Venture sling. It's much slimmer profile. It has a more distinct kind of like, I don't know how to say it, like kind of bandolier style. I don't know exactly what it is. It's just a different shape, maybe more fanny hip pack-esque, even though it's meant to be worn as a sling. It is a little bit taller, as you can see, and what that means is you can actually fit something like an iPad Pro 11-inch in here, and it's relatively comfortable, although it does get kind of flattish, a little board-like. Anyway, a little bit more of a traditional aesthetic, as is Trache's want. Slightly less organization, but still quite usable, I think. Just doesn't have as much flexibility. You got these nice thick Cobra buckles and just that traditional, like, you know, dry wax canvas Trache aesthetic. Another alternative, if you want to go up a little bit higher in size, I mean, this is the Trache Barn. I've previously done a review of this. This is 10 liters. It's definitely a messenger bag as opposed to a sling bag, but if you consider that the Venture sling is theoretically 9 liters and this is 10 liters, it's just distributed differently. I mean, this one gives you the ability to carry you know, a 13-inch MacBook and a bunch of other stuff and water bottles or whatever. It doesn't do as good of a job of carrying cameras though, and it's got like a fair amount of organization in here as well. And then finally, we've got the, I don't know if I'll call them granddaddies because they're relatively new to the scene, but maybe like the ultimate expression of the gigantic sling movement. This is the Alpaca Gear Bravo 6-liter and Bravo Max 10 liters. These are huge, high-capacity slings that are designed to carry devices. So this is the smaller one. This is only 6 liters, but you can definitely fit an 11-inch iPad Pro in there with the Type keyboard, and it fits properly in there, and it's still usable for everything else that you might want to do. These things, generally speaking, are like, they're designed to carry tablets or devices or, you know, other kind of things while still giving you enough organization, I think, to live your EDC life. And then they have a bunch of like pockets on pockets on pockets. I like them generally. They're not, you know, they're not so bulky, although they are definitely not, you know, smaller slings. You know, they have maybe a little bit more traditional kind of buckle construction. They use generally nice materials, but overall, I did feel that they just feel a little bit cheaper than the Venture sling in terms of the construction or some of the other slings out there. They're not cheap, but like they don't feel quite as nice yet. I think that Alpaca Gear is still a relatively young company, so they're kind of, you know, getting their design language and their refinement together. They have this interesting kind of like USB charging thing on all their bags, which, you know, has a cable in here you can run into like a USB battery or whatever if you like. I wish that they didn't have that. It's so gimmicky and it's kind of annoying. The Bravo Max will do the same thing, but just lets you carry a 13-inch MacBook Pro. Again, this is really kind of pushing the limits of what's a sling and what is a messenger bag. But also, you know, like if you like giant slings and you just want to be able to carry devices like a normal person, then you'll want to consider one of these two